Welcome to CineBites, a cinematic culinary podcast where we experience the wonders and beauty of cinema with our eyes and explore the unique and glorious cuisines in those films with our taste buds. Today's cinematic adventure takes us into a world that shook the horror movie genre and expanded our minds. Join us as we venture into the multi-layer world of Get Out. Feast your eyes. Well, welcome to the podcast, Adam.
Yeah.
I say we just get straight into it. There's no need to get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey.
boo.
Well,
Boo.
you know, we're dads now. I got to say, some cheesy stuff here and there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to dial it back a lot, especially, talking to my dad and his brothers, or my brother, about dad jokes. So
Dad jokes are a staple. You have to.
you have to,
I mean, you
I think
literally
to an
have to.
extent. But when it becomes your identity, where you're just the dad joke guy because you're a dad,
That's true.
that's where it needs to dial back. just
That's
a
true.
little bit.
But I mean, there's a certain point where you just have to do dad jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have to.
Well, I think a
If
rule
you
of
don't
thumb,
if you're a dad and you don't do dad jokes, then you're missing the mark.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say a rule of thumb for dad jokes is for one, be a dad. I think that helps.
Okay, yep.
If you're not a dad and you're doing dad jokes, it's fine, but it can be a little, rough,
Weird.
but a little weird.
A little weird.
It's like cool. You have dad jokes, non-dad.
Non-dad.
But so so today's podcast, as I mentioned in the intro, we are going to talk about the horror movie, which I think shook the horror movie genre, as I said, and that is Jordan Peele's debut movie.
Directorial debut.
Directorial debut
Yep.
movie, Get Out. And a lot of people, when this first came out, it really blew
It
their
came out of
minds.
left field.
It came out of left field. It blew their minds. It really opened the, expansion of, and it wasn't even the stereotypical horror movie. It wasn't a slasher. It wasn't anything necessarily, I guess you could say, with spirits or demonic. It really created a whole new genre, I think, of horror film.
It's kind of a psychological thriller
Yeah.
type of deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it borderlines horror, but it's not, like you were saying, it's not like all jump scares and
Right.
Freddy Krueger and that sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
like psychological. Like, you take most of the scenes from this movie are very normal looking,
Yeah.
like you would see from like any other drama.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this just looks like a rom-com or something.
Right.
I mean, I guess some scenes probably not, but for the most part, it's just subtle things in the movie that make you feel uneasy.
And I think that's why it's a little haunting, is because in a lot of ways, people who are viewing it can relate, where it feels like everyday life, but then there's something deeper and hidden.
It's
and
deep.
I think that's where the frightening side of it is that it's more relatable, to a lot of viewers in the audience. And I think that's where Jordan Peele really did a great job of showcasing that. And so I really love the movie. But this is actually one that you brought up for the show. We both love it. We're both fans of it. But I think you were the one who wanted to kind of get into it.
It's a good
and dive
movie
deep into
to analyze, and it's a good movie. It's a big movie for when it came out, but I still feel like a lot of people don't know of it. I
Right.
mean, especially now as it came out 2017, 6 years ago now.
Yeah, 2017.
And so, a lot of people may not remember or even know of the movie. So it's actually very good to, I think, talk about it because it's still interesting today.
Yeah, and since then, Jordan Peele's come out with a handful of
Two more movies.
movies.
And I love both of them. And we'll do it on another pod probably, but his second directorial debut is my favorite.
Oh, Us?
Yeah.
Is it really?
It's my
Okay.
favorite.
Wow,
Now,
I
this
didn't
one's really
realize
good, but
that.
Us is my favorite for sure.
Really? Okay, because
Yeah,
I know
I
you
was-
and I talked about Nope a couple times.
Yeah, Nope is solid too. It's
Yeah.
probably the lowest on the tier though.
Yeah.
But still good movie. I mean,
Yeah.
But anyway, we should get to the food.
Yes. Well,
need-
and before we get to the food, I do want to make a reminder, as always, our episodes will have spoilers in them. So
Yeah, spoiler warning.
So even if we're not talking about, this film, sometimes we spoil other movies throughout. But so just keep that in mind. If you haven't seen Get Out, as we encourage everyone, watch the movie. Yeah. It's great.
Really,
and any other movies that we reference, I'm sure we'll say, spoiler alert, you hear that from us a lot.
Spoilers.
As far as the first episode goes. So just a reminder.
The food in and of itself is a spoiler.
That's true.
I mean, really.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we gotta give you the warning before we reveal the food, because it's going to reveal, especially for this movie, some really key plot devices.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
I think I get the honors this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're more than welcome to.
Here we go.
And I can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we're gonna have to share the teacup.
Yes,
that's okay.
So yeah, that's okay. We'll sip.
Have you had any COVID symptoms in the last 72 hours?
I have not, thankfully. So
I have, but that's okay. I'm just kidding.
Well, then you might want to take the tea. So what we can talk about first, and I'm trying to remember an order of when you see it in the film. I think carrot cake is first.
I think.
Right, because carrot cake.
Because that's at the party.
That was
we don't have forks for the carrot cake.
Oh, that's right. We have a knife, so
we'll
just cut it up and then bite it.
Oh, there's just a spoon in the tea. We'll do that
for the carrot cake.
I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that works. That's fine. It all mixes in our mouth, so it's okay. Right. So carrot cake, I believe, was, if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was at the dinner that she references it with just the family.
Oh, yeah.
When he comes over and meets the brother and all that stuff. So carrot cake is mentioned briefly in the film, but I figure we could have it. It's
not
cake.
A huge moment.
No, but it's carrot cake. Might as well keep it in there.
Yep.
Then the second part is the tea. So the tea
it appears next.
Yeah, the tea does play a significant role in the movie.
Oh, here.
If you have seen the movie, and I already threw the spoilers out there, so if you have seen the movie, the tea does have a significant part with the mother, which I'm trying to remember the name off.
I'm bad at remembering the names in this movie. I know
Missy. Missy, who's a hypnotist, she uses that, and then when she dings the tea. Oh, that's and ASMR right there.
And scrapes it.
Yeah. Then that, for whoever she's hypnotizing or putting into a trance, puts them into the sunken place with the tea. So that's, which side did you drink off of?
This side.
That side. Okay. I'll do a little.
We got a little bit it's a Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey.
I don't think the movie specified what type of tea, but it was definitely a black tea. So Earl Grey is my favorite tea.
And and we kind of touched on this as far as multi-layer goes. I don't know if Jordan Peele put a significance with the type of tea, because I think everything that he put in there has some kind of trace back to why it was set in there, and that kind of brings us to the cereal part as you're cutting the cake.
We talked about the cake but didn't cut into it. This is going to be a nightmare.
You want me to hold it? Here, I'll hold it. No, we don't.
Okay.
Here, I'll hold it and you cut into it. Okay. So I can talk.
You talk about the cereal.
So the cereal plays a part where Rose is eating the cereal separate from the milk, and that's why we have the glass of milk on the outside.
There's no milk in this bowl of cereal.
Yeah,
it's
so
dry.
It's plain. And I heard a lot, and I've only briefly seen interviews with Jordan Peele.
Cake's flying.
Got the cake. I've only seen it briefly in interviews with Jordan Peele, so I don't know if it's candid. Who cares? We'll just eat it.
I don't really care.
I don't know.
It's pretty good though.
I don't know if it's candid, if it's confirmed that this is why he did it, but the segregation between the colored cereal and the white milk, I think, I whether he makes it candid or not, I would believe that's why he did it.
Yeah.
And that's I think.
Because
I think that
at
plays
this point in the movie, or up until this point in the movie,
that's not bad.
We pretty much thought, here I got it.
Okay,
that Rose, the girlfriend, was kind of on what's his name, Chris's side.
Yeah, Chris's side.
We kind of thought she was on his side, and then she reveals to him that she's lying to him when she shows the keys.
Yes.
That one part.
Yeah.
And then not long after that is this scene where you see her just do something so bizarre. She's watching, or not watching something. She's looking at pictures, I think, of her old boyfriends. And she's eating cereal. She'll go like this, get the Fruit Loop, and she's just going like this.
Just one at a time. Really creepy.
One at a time, just taking little bites. And we didn't have straws, but she had a glass of milk like this and was just drinking it separate. And it's just like...
Sorry, can you hear me crunching?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
It's just that in that scene, it's like the most stupid thing, but it's like creepy. When you watch it because you're like...
But like, excuse me.
Well, choking on the Fruit Loop.
I just inhaled the cereal. But like I said, I think it was intentionally placed, and it does add to the horror aspect because you're just like, you know, why is she doing something so bizarre? But it all adds up, and
the psychological aspect because you're just confused.
Yeah, the whole time you're like,
that's what I think I remember a lot about this movie on the first watch is it's just confusion. Yeah, you're like, okay, why did this character do this? Yeah, why did they say this? What does this mean? And then you get most of the answers by the end of the movie, but not all of them.
Right, right. And I'll kind of get into one of the things that you and I had talked about before where viewers or even the studio the team that put this film together revealed as kind of hidden messages that you may have missed. Mm-hmm. So we'll kind of touch on that a little bit later on to kind of see if there's any of those unanswered questions that are answered now. And a lot of it makes sense. A lot of it can be, you know, fan theory, you know, and I feel like you can make fan theory for really any movie, but a lot of it isn't. I think a lot of it is the work of Jordan Peele and putting it into his film to make you think and really showcase, you know, a lot of, you know, a lot of real life things in this film, you know, whether you see it or not. I think that is really, really awesome how he was able to do that in such a artistic way, and I think that's really great, and that's why I really praise Jordan Peele for this being his directorial debut.
Crazy,
I think that's
first directorial debut.
You hit a home run on the first one. I mean, how many directors can say that they did that? You know,
almost none.
Yeah. So
and it's and we'll talk about this a little bit. If you don't know who Jordan Peele is, he's probably most famous for Key and Peele comedy sketches on YouTube and Comedy Central, I think. And so change and shift from being the comedy guy to being this horror movie director. Yeah. But, and I'll talk about it a little bit here later after we review the food.
We got to review.
But there's some comical elements in this movie too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So he's not completely out of the comedian, the funny guy scene.
Right. And I think that some of that contribution is with his friend. I can't remember the character's name either. But his friend, who's the TSA agent. Yep. I think he brings a huge. I know his name, but I know his name, but I am spacing on it right now.
How is he not?
A phenomenal comedian, phenomenal actor too. Really.
So do we want to do boards again I don't think we did boards for the first episode for food.
We didn't, rating. But we can if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for not knowing his name, but
I
the TSA agent,
okay.
And he did a great part, and that brings back to the comedic element. I mean, Jordan Peele's a
he's
pro.
Hilarious in this movie.
Yeah, even before Key and Peele, Jordan Peele had his experience on Mad TV. I don't know if you remember that, but that's kind of I think what really put him on the map, especially with Keegan as well. So so I think that really helped. Or was an easy and natural segue to have comedic elements in this, but also have it be really raw and really terrifying in a way. So so we wrote down you wrote it down?
I wrote it down, my review.
Okay, you can go ahead and share, and I'm going to grab my board.
I'm giving the food for Get Out a 6.8.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I think you
6.8 is am I more generous?
I feel like you are.
See, the thing is, I almost did a 7.1, but I lowered it down so I love cereal. Now I will say it's not my favorite cereal. Man, maybe I did go too high. Let me change it.
Well, you can't change it now.
I'm changing it.
Okay, you're changing out. But do you want
slightly.
Me to? I won't. So
I'm bringing it down a half a point, 6.3. I forgot that I don't really like Fruit Loops that well. I mean, they're still good, but
I guess if you think of it as
6.3 carrot cake. I like a carrot cake.
Yeah.
It's not a cake that I'm going to choose, but I'm not going to be mad about it.
That's true.
I do love tea. Now, I'm usually a milk in the tea kind of guy, but I actually like this, just the sugar. And an Earl Grey tea is my favorite type of tea. Mm-hmm. But I got milk on the side, too. So
yeah,
the milk some people don't like just drinking a glass of milk, but I actually do.
Yeah. I
don't
too.
mind. I don't mind drinking a glass of milk. So I'm giving this a 6.3. Like, I don't have any qualms with any of this food.
Yeah.
That's a big word that I don't even know what it means.
I think it fits. We'll say it does.
I don't know.
So I think really the only thing I'm giving points on is the milk, because I would drink milk by itself. I won't drink cereal by itself because it needs to have milk in it. I don't drink or eat carrot cake often, so it's not one of my favorite. So you're just not rating
anything?
No, I'm rating. I'm just kind of breaking it down. And then the tea's okay. I'll drink tea, but I don't always.
You're more of a coffee guy.
I am more of a coffee guy.
I'm more of a tea guy.
Yeah. So that's
means
why
that this has now become my tea for the rest of the show.
So in fashion.
I'm take the bag out of here because I think that's one thing is we may have left this bag in there too long.
Well, I will say in fashion with the movie, I can be okay with this food getting out of my life.
Oh, wow.
As a combination, because we're rating it collectively,
That's
right?
true, yeah.
Like if I would never sit down as a meal as like dry cereal and cake. So I'm giving it
That's
a 4.2.
Yeah, that tracks.
So, yeah. And like I said in the first episode, I am a tough rater.
You're a tough rater, and I'm a generous rater.
Yeah.
So if you get our average, that'll probably be the more accurate number.
That's true. Yeah, we should start doing
balance
that.
each
Just
other
balance it out, I think. So, I guess
6.3, 4.2.
5, computer, 5 something. Well, I don't know. We don't have to. What did you say yours was?
6.3.
6.3, and then mine
Pull out
was
the calculator.
5.
It's like carry the 3.
It's like 5.25, but
nice.
I don't think that's right.
It's actually too high for you.
No, it is right.
Oh, it is right.
It is 5.2. Yeah, we'll figure that out later. But I think it is 5.25 is what we average out to.
There you go. That's the average. So if you want to try this for yourself at home,
yeah, just know that you're going to get a 5.25 meal is what you're going to get when you have that.
Unless you really hate carrot cake.
Yeah,
or probably bring it down.
Or Fruit Loops. Or segregation with cereal.
Yeah.
Because I hate segregation with cereal.
Or just segregation in general.
Well, yeah, of course. I thought that was implied.
Well, when you say I hate segregation with cereal.
With cereal. Okay. I hate segregation altogether.
Great.
So, but yeah, that's what I would rate it. I think that's about right. That sounds about right.
It's right in the middle.
Yeah. Sounds about right for this meal.
Yeah.
So, what I would like to kind of venture in and what we kind of skipped over with the first episode is really just giving a rough rundown of this movie and the storyline. Yeah. I know anyone can Google a synopsis of this and break it down, but and it can be me or you, or we can tag team this. But can you
tag team
kind of give the viewers or listeners kind of a general rundown of what this movie is as far as storyline goes?
Yeah. If you've not seen the movie, first of all, do that. Spoiler alert. But if you haven't seen it in a while, kind of a rundown is there's Chris, who is African-American character, who is dating this white girl, Rose, right?
Yeah, Rose. Mm-hmm. Crazy Rose.
And so we kind of jump in their relationship. I don't know where they live, but they're going to go visit Rose's parents for the first time.
Yes.
And he's never met her family, and he's not sure how her family is going to react to her dating a black guy.
Yeah.
And so they go and they reacted in a way that he did not anticipate.
Yeah.
So they go, and it's seemingly normal at first for a while, but there's just strange borderline racist comments that are made by the family, and then later on they have a big party of just family members and family friends, and it gets real weird when the party starts. And so he was already picking up on things, but then this party happens, gets even worse, and then fast forward, lots of other things happen. Basically, they were auctioning him off.
Right.
And he was basically this next guy that they were going to implant their brain into.
Yeah.
So whoever won the auction gets to implant their brain into Chris.
Right.
And so there's kind of this weird, it's kind of like they're so trying to not be racist that they're even more racist.
Right.
Because
yeah.
they're like, they appreciate African American person and appreciate it, but at a distance.
Yeah.
And then they're like, just kind of thinking them as a superior being in a way that, superior physical features. They talk about that a lot, though, characters at the party, because they're like,
right.
oh, you've got this and you've got this. Because they're essentially like getting a lay of Chris so they can determine whether or not they want to put their brain into him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's kind of like this reverse racism where they appreciate him and realize some things about him, but then at the same time, they don't appreciate him as enough as a person to consider his own brain in his own life.
Yeah.
And to take his life from him.
Yeah, exactly. It almost devalues themselves as a human being.
Yeah.
But they still, like you said, appreciate all the other features of it to put, but it's like, okay, but where does that person that you're taking the brain, where does their thoughts and their soul and their feeling?
They're in the sunken place.
Right.
That has to do with the T. We might talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But fast forward a little bit, Chris picks up on all this. He's able to escape the brain changing operation.
Yes.
And he ends up killing 3 of the 4 family members. And then the groundskeeper kills Rose at the end.
Yes.
Technically.
And the groundskeeper was actually the grandfather.
Yeah. So he's Chris started getting weird feelings in the film when he started. There's a groundskeeper and a maid, and they're both African American, and they both are super weird in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, both seem happy, anxious at all times, especially the woman, the maid, and then the groundskeeper kind of keeps a distance. And so Chris picks up on their weird behavior, and come to find out at the end, the groundskeeper was actually Rose's grandpa.
Yes.
Well, his brain inside of this other guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the lady was her grandma.
Georgina.
And so, so it's just like super weird. And you pick up on those 2 characters, like some weird things that are happening, but you don't know until the end of the movie.
Right.
And they don't even explicitly say it either. I think, you can pick up on it in certain dialogues. I think maybe at one point Rose yells, "Grandpa," or something.
Yes, she does.
And so that's like one of the only instances where you're like, that confirms it.
Right.
But they don't outright say this person has this person's brain in it, so you kind of have to put the pieces together.
Yeah,
there
like you said, there's a lot of implications that
Mm-hmm.
lead to that.
But that's like the overall idea of the movie.
Yeah.
The overall plot, lots of things happening in between, and it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, creepy. Yeah, very good, very well put together. And as you were mentioning, that's the general plot, but with everything sprinkled in with subliminal messages or whatever kind of reading between the line instances that Jordan Peele puts in there. There's tons of fan theories, tons of thoughts on what is actually candid, what Jordan Peele actually meant when he created the movie. And so I looked it up to kind of see what would kind of confirm that, or just if you're watching it, be like, okay, that makes sense. I could see it, but so I'm just going to kind of read through them from what I found on the interwebs. So the first one, and we can just kind of talk about each one. Yeah. So the first one, it says, Rose isn't actually sticking up for Chris when she argues with the cop about showing the ID. Remember when they get pulled over? But it's really just her avoiding the paper trail.
Yeah.
I feel like
I've heard this theory before.
And I mean, that makes total sense.
It makes total sense. On the first viewing, you think nothing of it. I think they trying to build her up as this character who is protective and not racist, and then you go back in the watch through and you realize now that you know who Rose is,
you're like, okay, she wasn't being nice.
She wasn't being nice. She was trying to hide Chris's identity because they've done that before. Later on, there's we didn't even mention the one character. I don't know the guy's name, but he's played by Lakeith Stanfield.
Oh yes, Andre Logan King.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so he
was the first person you see in the movie.
He's the first person you see in the movie. Like literally, he's walking down the street and just gets picked up, thrown in the back of a van.
You don't know who it's from at the moment, but then you later find out.
Later find out he was just picked up in a van or car, thrown in the trunk, and had his brain swapped out.
Yes,
and
he was actually one that says the title of the movie when there was the flash from the camera. When you get a flash of light in the camera, you snap out of the sunken place.
Yeah, there's a moment of consciousness from the person who's stuck in the sunken place. So your nose starts to bleed, and then you start to gain your consciousness back. And so in that moment, he sees Chris and is like, "Get out of here! Get out! Get out!"
And that was his way of warning him about the family.
Warning.
Which it makes you think, if that didn't happen, would Chris still get more answers, or would I think that's a pivotal moment.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment because he obviously picks up on whatever the guy's name is, having some odd behavior, just like the groundskeeper and just like the maid. And so he approaches him and tries to talk to him, and it just is super awkward and weird, and he starts to pick up on these things because of that character.
Yeah.
And later come to find out that Chris actually recognizes him, that he knew a guy who knew him or whatever, and that this guy who got picked up on the side of the road had been missing for several months.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was just mentioning, because Rose is trying to keep Chris off of the paper trail, because that's what they did for this other guy. They essentially they just erased his name, took him, tried to get rid of him, and he's still on a missing persons list. Yeah. But he's still out there, you know, kind of alive.
Right. And I mean, for the family to run that kind of operation, because we find out that Chris is not the first boyfriend that Rose has.
Nope. There's dozens.
Or just partner.
Friend. Yeah.
You know, and that's how she's lured a lot of people into the family to have that.
Rose lures in through relationships by getting boyfriends, even girlfriends, or just friends in general. Yeah. And then she has got a brother, which his tactic was the tactic that we see at the beginning of the movie of literally just picking up dudes off the side of the street. Right. Yeah. And so there's the two tactics. There's one that's a little more aggressive, but both are still like, it's the same outcome for that person.
Right. Exactly.
Super crazy.
So number 2 is, after Rose and Chris hit the deer, Chris goes to see if it's okay. 2 things are happening here. It's the first introduction to the hit and run theme. Oh, that's interesting. Chris shows empathy. Oh, and 2, Chris shows empathy. Rose does not. So you see, kind of a dive inside Chris's mind, and then kind of a dive inside Rose's mind. Yeah,
this is I think it's talking about the hit and run theme. I think more than that, it's a reference to Chris's mother. Yes. Because Chris's mother was killed in a hit and run situation, I think. But whatever, if it was a hit and run or whatever, but she was hit by a car and was killed. Yeah. And so that trauma in his life was the catalyst that they used to hypnotize him. Because Missy, the mom, uses hypnotism. Yeah. Is that the word? Yeah. To lure these people in to get into this sunken place to where their minds can be swapped out. Yeah. And she has to use some sort of trauma in their life to be able to get into their deepest emotions. Right. And so this is that first call into that, was when he sees that deer, it reminds him of his mother. Right. And so, And it is a recurring theme in the movie, kind of this hit and run thing. Yeah. And I guess that's not really any hidden meaning. I think it's pretty explicit. No, it's pretty explicit, because it's not them hitting the deer. It sounds very insignificant, but there's kind of this moment between him and the deer. Yeah, where he's just staring at it, and they kind of linger on it for a little bit longer than you would think if it were insignificant. Right. True. So it's definitely significant in that sense, that it's kind of, he sees his mom in that situation. Right. Right. So.
And then quickly after that scene, and that goes into the third part, is it says, Dean has a lot to say about how little he cares for deer and bucks. Black buck was a racist slur in post-Reconstruction America for black men who refused to bow down to white authority.
Interesting.
So that's a... I mean, I
don't remember
when he
him
was talking
about deer.
It could have been maybe when they... I'm trying to remember too. Maybe when they talked about hitting the deer on the way. Maybe he had some kind of comment about that.
I wouldn't be surprised by that reference because... Dean's the dad's name, right?
Yes.
He ends up getting killed by a deer.
Oh, yeah.
Because he gets, not by the deer itself, Chris kills him, but stabs him with the antlers of a deer head that was on the wall.
Right.
So he uses the deer head, grabs it, and weaponizes it against him and stabs him, ends up killing him.
Yeah.
And so
that's kind of the irony of it,
it's kind of the irony. I think if you want to go deeper into it, he's kind of taking the trauma of his mom's death and weaponizing it against them because they're trying to weaponize it against him.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I think that could have been very intentional in putting this in the movie too. Yeah. I wouldn't put past Jordan Peele for doing that. So.
It's just with a movie like this, there's nothing explicit and there's a lot of things that are subtle. And so you kind of have to speculate and think about things, and you don't know whether it's true or not.
That's true.
Because they don't explicitly say it at the end.
Yeah. And I think
some movies that are just straightforward and simple, but this one's not.
And I think that really, I think for a lot of films, that really makes a film great in a lot of ways. I think Quentin Tarantino has even said that with the way that people come up to him and say, this is how I think this movie ended. This is what I think was in the box. Was it the box in Pulp Fiction or the briefcase? Yeah. So they say, this is what I thought was in the briefcase, and so on and so forth. Quentin Tarantino's like, sure. Yeah, that's great. I mean, because that really opens up the imagination. Every single person with that kind of thought has a different view of the movie. Mm-hmm. If you go in and we're talking about it, you're like, I think it was this. And I'm like, well, I think it was this. We watched two completely different movies.
And got different things out of it.
Yeah, completely different things out of it. And I think that's brilliant. Sometimes I get annoyed. I'm just like, just tell me what happens, just so I can have some...
Sometimes it's too obscure.
Yeah, just so I can have some closure on what actually happened. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I like the idea that Quentin Tarantino had mentioned, is the beauty of you're watching something that everyone else is watching differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that's awesome. Yeah. And I think that's same with Get Out. Even though some things are more straightforward, some things may be explicitly brought up that Jordan Peele is like, no, this is what I meant by doing that. At the same time, you can create your own narrative and we'll all see something different, which is super cool, super awesome. So number 4 on this list, and we may not even be able to get through all of these, but I do want to hit up some of them.
We can go rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Okay. Number 4, Georgina, and we'll kind of slow down on ones we think are more interesting. Georgina spills the iced tea because Missy accidentally clinks the spoon against the glass, sending her into a brief hypnosis. I think that was more of just Chris being like, what's Georgina doing? Why is she acting this way? So that's not really much of a hidden thing.
I don't know for sure. I mean, surely if they're putting it on here, she did clink the glass, but
yeah.
I think that it's possible, but that seems like a little bit more of a stretch to me.
Yeah.
I think that Georgina is already acting weird.
Yeah, true.
Even without clinking of glasses.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So nothing is really out of the norm for her.
Because just with Chris being there, the Georgina, the grandma, knowing what's going to happen.
Right.
And I'm sure... Yeah, I think she's just acting weird in the first place. So
it
may not even have to do with that. It's possible.
Yeah. The next one is there are Omega symbols outside of the family's home. Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet, which may represent the end for Chris. I think we're going to get into...
I don't see them.
I don't either. I'm looking at this picture.
It's showing a picture, but
supposedly there's the Omega symbol.
That's
if
a
you
stretch.
Google Omega, I think we're going to start getting into stretches. So let's see how...
The first ones were like, yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah.
That one's like, eh.
So let's see how far we can see how they stretch it. So, okay, next one is on tour. On the tour, Dean remarks, "We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go. There's a pronoun, what is it? Okay, there's a pronoun.
Antecedent.
Slip here, and it's on purpose. He couldn't bear to let them go, as in his parents, not Georgina and Walter. Mm-hmm. So at the time, even though he was talking of all of them, Georgina, Walter, his parents, he was only talking about his parents at the time. Which, I mean, that makes sense. But Chris at the time was thinking, he wanted to keep, the groundskeeper. And
that's one of those things where I had this in my notes. On a first watch, you're viewing everything at a surface level.
Yeah.
Sort of in a way, because you haven't seen it before, so you don't know what's going to happen. So it's more about the mystery of what is going on. Yeah. On a rewatch, you catch little things like that where he says, "I couldn't bear to lose them." And then you're like, "Oh shoot, he's talking about his parents because his parents are in
right
in their heads." So little things like that, you pick up on more details on a second watch in this movie. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that clears up some of the creepiness that may be happening. Like for the example, the second part where Walter was running. So Walter, who we know, when you're first watching the film, you're just like, oh, he's just full sprint going towards Chris. What's going to happen?
And it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. It is when you first watch it. It's just so random.
It became a meme, and when I first watched this movie, we actually watched it in high school in my film class.
Oh,
the movie had literally came out that year, and my film teacher loved it so much he went ahead and put it in our horror section of our film class.
Nice.
Which was huge praise for a movie to come out in the same year, and he watched it and said, "I'm putting this in my class right away."
Absolutely.
But this kind of shows the comedic side, I think, this moment in particular of when he's running, because like people in the class were audibly laughing when this was happening. It's just like, because it just looks so stupid. And Chris is just standing there like a deer in the headlights, like, what is happening?
Well, supposedly in this scene, it says Walter, who we know is really Dean's father, is probably running, and this is where it might be a stretch, because he never got over his loss to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Berlin Olympics. So
kind of off of this, I saw another theory that this whole like brain swapping process was started by Dean's father, the grandpa who is now in Walter's body.
That would make sense.
And so he started it because he's the guy who's in the video at the end.
Yes.
So he started this whole thing, and one theory is that he started it because he lost to Jesse Owens, and he saw the superiority in his mind of a black man in sports.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I wish I had his physical features.
Which now, knowing that or keeping that in the back of your mind, that's why he was sprinting. He's like, I want to see what this kind of speed feels like.
Yeah, and so he lost, and so he kind of, that's another theory, was because of that incident in the losing in the Olympics is why he started this in the whole started it in the first place.
Yeah, which would make sense.
Which would make sense. Yeah. It's not confirmed, obviously, but it tracks.
Yeah, it really does. The next few ones are instances within the movies where they believe they're hiding the lobotomy scars.
Yeah, because they got the end of the movie, you can see the scars in the tops of their heads.
Right. So Georgina is fixing her bangs at one point in the reflection. They think is to hide those scars. Walter is wearing a hat. So they think he wears a hat at all times to hide those scars. Same with Logan. So everyone who you know up until that point who has had that surgery done is wearing something to hide
something
the
to cover their head.
Right.
Which makes sense. And you actually you begin to see that at the end of the movie. I think there's a part with Georgina and she reveals her, like her bangs move out of the way, because I think she's fighting
see it a little bit.
She's fighting Chris or something, and you see it a little bit.
Right. There's another part in the movie where it's at the party where everyone who's looking to go to the auction and I guess essentially buy Chris is wearing red. and Chris is the only one wearing blue. Like everyone in the party, someone's wearing red. So I don't know what the significance of that would be. But
I mean,
they're all wearing some form of red.
Yeah, if they are, which I didn't go through and do this. Clearly, someone did. If they are, surely it's intentional.
I just don't know.
I don't know what the significance of red versus blue.
Yeah.
I know usually red versus blue are pretty common opposing colors, like in video games and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because the blue is the opposite of the red. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. Well, and it also talks about furthermore about the auction and how it essentially, once you get to that point, you realize, the blatant racism with the families and essentially buying Chris. So it says the bingo game incident with the auction is a shared imagery of slave auctions.
I mean, that's not a theory.
Yeah, it's not a theory. It's not really
like
hidden.
They literally had a picture of Chris. There was a gazebo. It kind of looked like a wedding
right,
set up with a gazebo and all the chairs. And they had a picture of him. And he was like holding up numbers, and they were holding up their bingo cards because it's not an actual auction. They're trying to hide it by using bingo cards.
Yeah.
But eventually a guy ends up winning it. One thing off of that, the guy who ends up winning Chris, purchasing him, is a blind guy who used to be an artist, and he what am I trying to say? There's a moment where he says, he knows of Chris's photography because Chris is a photographer. And so the blind guy's like, you have a good keen eye for photography, and that's why this guy really wanted to get Chris, is because he doesn't have any eyes.
Right.
And so it's more of a moment of he's like trying to take Chris's eyes because he's blind.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting in that way. And he ends up winning it, and then he ends up, I think, dying at the end because his brain is cut open.
Yeah,
and they didn't do the other half of the surgery.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Which I guess if you want to take any eyes from anyone, it would have someone who has a keen look at like photography and knowing, what moments to capture. I mean, that's so. That's a good observation there. On the next one, it talks about the Fruit Loops and the milk, but we already mentioned that at the beginning. Just as image of Rose eating Fruit Loops and milk separately can be seen as a metaphor for not mixing non-white and white things. Yeah. So that.
Yep. Already talked about that.
Yeah, I feel
Speaking
like that.
Of, I want some more.
Yeah, that checks out. Jeremy foreshadows. So Jeremy is Rose's brother. He's the brother that has the other tactic of luring people into the family's home. Jeremy foreshadows his own death when he talks about jujitsu over dinner. Chris moves ahead when they're grappling and finally overpowers him. So that is interesting. I wonder if at the time Chris was more, he might have even been interested. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of testing out Chris to see, or Jeremy was thinking, maybe Chris might be someone that I'm interested in. Could be. I don't know. That could have been. I mean, they asked him so many uncomfortable questions and a lot of very straightforward and not not great questions. But you have a sense of an unsettled feeling the entire time you're watching it.
Yeah.
And there's so many layers that we can peel back with this movie, which we could even do a part 2. Maybe there's just so many, because you start to get into, the racial side of the U.S. and, different aspects of that. And there's so many things that we can elaborate on. And I'm sure that Jordan Peele wanted to bring to light, And I think we could definitely get into that a lot more. Unfortunately, we won't be able to this go around, but there's definitely opportunities for that. But
do you want a little fun fact?
Yeah, fun facts. Let's do it. Fun facts with Adam.
It's just one fun fact.
Okay. One fun fact with Adam.
Get Out was actually nominated. I don't think it won, but it was actually nominated for Best Original Comedy at the Golden Globes.
Comedy?
Yep. So we talked about this in my film class, that one I was talking about. You know, in a rewatch of the movie, if you kind of view it as a comedy, it can actually be pretty funny. And it's more of a satirical comedy.
Right.
It's a satirical take on race in a lot of ways. Now, obviously, I think it's hard to argue it being a comedy first time you watch it. Because it's like super, like you're going into it, and obviously the marketing and just the filmmaking of it is a horror movie.
Right.
But on a second time go around, after knowing of it, and if you kind of shift how you think about it, you can kind of see it as a horror movie, as a satirical or not a horror movie, a comedy, as a satirical comedy. And it's super weird, and that's just one instance. It's the Golden Globes literally nominated it for Best Original Comedy / Musical.
That's wild.
And I don't think it won because I think most people, didn't want to vote for it.
Or they thought the same thing.
They're like, why is this a comedy? But there was enough people who thought of it that way that it had been nominated.
Wow.
So
I wonder what Jordan Peele thought about that.
I don't know.
Because I think this was his step into trying to do something more serious and more meaningful. And not saying his work isn't meaningful or impactful, but it's definitely a step in the different direction from comedy.
Yeah.
And I sense that from the first time I watched it. So I wonder if he felt, it's like, why are people still putting me in the box of comedy?
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of it. Is it because they know it's him who's doing it is why it would land in our comedy? But I do think that there's a lot of intentionality in the satirical comedy in the movie.
Wow.
Like, I think that there's lots of different things, like on a rewatch, and it's more of just like the ridiculousness of the way this very rich white family acts.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
I get that.
And so, like, especially the party scene, I think is actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because he's going around and they're just like saying these kind of not, but also blatantly racist comments.
Right.
But they're trying to play it off, and he's just kind of the whole time like, what's happening?
Right. Yeah.
And so things like that, and then the scene of Walter running and just different little things. It definitely gives the vibes of a satirical comedy in some aspects.
So that would be a hot take of trying to defend this movie as a comedy.
Yeah, that would be a hot take.
Yeah.
I am on the side to think that it is. I think it's justifiable to say that it's a satirical comedy.
Yeah.
But not fully. Like, if you have the IMDb page, it would say the genres, and it would say like horror, and then after that comedy, not the other way around.
Or horror thriller comedy.
Yeah, at the very end, like it's just like an added thing at the end.
Yeah, I could see that.
So anyway, I just thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
With this movie, like if you've seen this movie or even just seen trailers or marketing for this movie, you're like, how is this a comedy?
Yeah. Nothing feels comedic
confusing
about it, except for maybe his friend with the TSA agent, and then the moments that you were talking about.
Those moments are obvious. Like the friend is really funny in this movie.
It's like the comedic relief.
He's the comedic relief that you need every once in a while. Every 15 minutes, he shows up and he says something funny, and you're like, okay, I can breathe.
Yeah. I can take a second.
So,
which I think that's a good example of the very end, where you have a breather, where you're like, okay, Chris is gonna get out of here, good, because
there's kind of a twist at the end.
Yeah,
because
which we can spoil it since we already said spoiler alert.
So he kills all the 3 family members. He ends up flashing taking a picture of Walter, because Walter, aka the grandpa with his brain in there, he was going to go kill Chris. He had a gun,
right?
A shotgun or something, and so he's approaching Chris. Chris flashes the light, and then right when Walter's about to shoot him, he turns around and actually shoots Rose.
Yeah, and
then ends up shooting himself too.
Yeah,
because when he gained his consciousness, he realized he didn't want to be stuck in this sunken place anymore.
Right,
and so, but then after that, Walter died, Rose died, and Chris is just laying there.
Rose didn't die right away. She didn't die right away. She's bleeding out.
And he went up and choked her.
You have Chris over Rose, and then you see police lights.
Yeah. So Chris is over Rose choking her.
Yeah.
Or something, and then all of a sudden you see red and blue lights, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And like the cops are here. They see this black guy choking his girlfriend in the middle of the road.
Right.
And she was shot, and it just looks really bad on him.
Yeah.
And then out comes his friend.
His friend.
Because apparently TSA agents get a car that has flashing blue lights, red and blue lights on it. But that was like a twist, because I thought, oh shoot, this movie's not over.
Yeah.
Like some other stuff is going to happen. But
it was a relief too, because you're just like, okay, good. Chris is going to make it out alive. He's going to be fine. His friend's there.
Because in the scene where he's fighting all of them, there is a sense of relief, because it seems like he's going to escape.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, good. He's going to escape. He's going to make it. And then you get to that point, and you're like, oh no, he did not escape. He's going to go to jail for a very long time.
Right.
But nope.
Yeah.
He's good to go.
Made it out alive, and yeah.
I do wonder what happened after that.
Yeah.
Because there's now like 6 dead people.
Right, that's true
just at this rich family's home that is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but surely someone's going to stumble upon it at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they could get prints off of it to find traces of Chris. Maybe he went straight to the police. I don't know. Because I don't know.
Well, like we talked about earlier, the ending or any ambiguity of a movie, we can come to the conclusion ourselves.
Yeah.
So however your interpretation of the movie that happens to Chris and how the story continues, unless they come out with a Get Out 2, which I don't think they can.
No.
That's up to your interpretation.
And I don't think they should.
No. I think it ended really well.
But one kind of theory that I saw was, or not theory, but like speculation of what maybe they did after the movie, was they did an investigation on that one guy, whatever his name was, at the party that they had recognized, who was in the missing persons case.
Oh, yes.
Lakelet's character. I know the actor, but I don't know.
I said it earlier. Andre Logan King.
Andre. So maybe I saw something where they're thinking, maybe after that they were able to go to the police and figure all this out, but then try and search for Andre. Try and figure out if there's a way to restore him back to his former glory or something.
That would be
because now Chris knows the faces and names of a lot of people that are involved in this weird cult.
Right.
And so he can likely approach the police about it.
Yeah. Well, and those people will find out that the family is gone too.
Yeah, so Chris ended the operation.
Yeah, he did.
This family business, he just ended it.
Man. That's good. I mean,
he does not support family business. He
killed
the whole family.
That's a weird way to take it, but
he does not like to support family businesses. Yeah.
But
in this case, I think it's okay.
Yeah, in this case, it is 100% okay. That's a family business that I think can go away for a long time. So what we can do is just kind of give our reviews. So let's get out let's get out the whiteboards and kind of give a little talk.
I'll go first.
Wait, you went first last time.
Okay, you go first.
I'm going to go first this time.
I'm going to go ahead and write mine, though.
Okay. So I'm going to think about mine while I'm writing it. A lot to unwrap with this movie.
What should I draw? I'm going to draw something.
A lot to unwrap with this movie. Me, personally, I enjoy a good horror film if it's good or well put together. There's a lot of horror films that focus solely on just kind of the jump scare and just really getting people's heart racing in that sense, but they can be a terrible horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't
like movies like that.
So I look for character development. I look for how the film is put together, the story. There's so many things that wrap up. And I think since this is still put in the horror movie genre,
or the comedy movie genre,
I guess depends on how. So I guess you could give it 2 ratings if depending on that.
Rated on a comedy and rated on a horror movie, it'd get a really low rating as a comedy.
Yeah, probably very low. But as far as horror goes, I think they really kind of paved into a new subgenre, I would say. I think the realism this comedy. And then I think also the layers that it peels back makes it stand out and makes it unique. I think, like I said, it's a knockout of the park for Jordan Peele. I think it is so good
for his debut.
Yeah, and it really opened up for good talent that is in the Daniel Kaluuya, who played Chris. He went on to do Black Panther.
This was one of his. This was also breakout for him.
Yeah, and he's
a pretty big name.
Yeah, and with Lakeith Stanfield. I mean,
Lakeith. I always say Lakeith.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I think it's Lakeith.
No, you're right. It is Lakeith. Oh, okay. But I think I've said Lakeith multiple times in this episode.
But even after this movie, I mean, he's been in so many more within the last 6 years. So,
well, he was in Jordan Peele's Third. Nope, he was the main guy in that one too.
Well, Daniel was.
Yeah, Daniel.
Sorry. Okay, yeah. So they both have really used this film to showcase what they're capable of, and I think that's really great to show strong black male actors in the leading role in Hollywood. So I think that's really cool, and I think Jordan Peele has done a really cool thing with starting with Get Out. So I think that bumps up my rating. I still haven't written it down, but I have a number in my mind. So I think that really bumps up my number.
What's it gonna be?
I think with it being horror's, it's not on my top favorite genres.
Yeah.
So it might bump it down just a little bit, just because I'm not big into horror film a whole lot. And like we talked about in the first episode, that's more so preference. But I think ratings is preference anyways.
Yep.
So
it is.
I will say I'm gonna give this one for a film just as it is.
I saw yours. We're very close on this.
I'm giving it a 7.9. What are you
I'm giving it an 8.1.
Ooh, we're really close. I see the deer.
I drew a deer in a teacup.
Yeah, I should have drew
we're very close.
Little Fruit Loops on it. So, yeah, so very close. So we're very in agreement with this movie.
Great movie.
Yeah, great movie. I think
anything close to an 8 is great.
Oh, absolutely.
8 is great.
8 is great. This is something that I just adore this movie, and really with Jordan Peele, because even if you're not a horror film fan, this is something you can definitely watch. You can have a lot of conversation on, and I think that is really what film's all about.
And that goes with any of Jordan Peele's movies. Like, they're categorized as horror, but they can be enjoyed by non-horror lovers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I really love Us, because it's a little bit more creepy than this one.
Yeah.
I think in terms of just the theming and the shots and things.
Yeah.
But it's not, like you were saying at the very beginning, not super horror-y.
Right.
Not too many like jump scares that are unnecessary or chainsaw massacring and things.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not super gory or anything.
Or it doesn't have that daunting or haunting feel from, let's say, an A24 movie like Hereditary or Midsummer or something.
And that's
like
for
that.
all of Jordan Peele's movies. They're all similar in that way, and they can be enjoyed by non-horror lovers that want a little creepy.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
So I think, that's a wrap on that movie.
That is a wrap on Get Out. So it's time to get out. We're get in
the
Cinesnacks this week. So I am the unfortunate side of this. So I'm going to be the guesser. So just quick recap. I'm going to be asking Adam some questions.
Yes or no's.
He's going to think of a movie and write it down on his board. I have to give yes or no questions.
Yes or no.
Yes or no questions, and I have to narrow it down to what I think it's going to be. So I meant to tell you about this before we started filming. I actually played a variation of this with my wife.
To test it?
And we didn't time it, but I know it went well over 2 minutes, and I could not get her movie. But to be fair...
So we're going to have to change the rules next episode.
Possibly. Well, let's see.
We'll see.
So, to be fair, her movie, she was thinking of Step Up 2, but she kept going back and forth with Step Up 1 and Step Up 2. So her answers kept messing up because it was 2.
Well, that's your excuse.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
Okay, and so if you don't remember, whoever loses this, so if he doesn't get it, then he gets the punishment.
Yes.
If he does get it, I get the punishment. And whoever loses has a punishment that is themed to get out. And I have the punishment, and he doesn't know what it is.
I know. And I like that. We started that
great.
last week, so I think having the secret punishment, I think is going to be fun.
Yeah, secret punishment is great.
So I'm a little nervous. I'm
gonna,
feeling what he had yesterday, but I think I can focus. Okay.
I'm going to show you guys the movie. Close your eyes. This is the movie. Hope you all can see. I'll move it a little bit closer. My handwriting's not the greatest, but just so you know that I'm not cheating, I'll just lay it down right here. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes. Are you going to do a timer?
Oh,
Can I do a visible timer? I didn't look over at your board, so.
That's fine. Yeah. Let me pull up a timer. Google 2-minute timer.
Going to be rapid fire.
Here we go. You ready?
I am ready. Just tell me when. Oh, wait. You already started.
I didn't. Okay. I did not actually click it.
Oh, okay.
I was.
Let's
reset. All right.
Reset. Okay.
Ready, set, go.
Is it an 80s movie?
No.
Is it a 90s movie?
Nope.
2000s movie?
Nope.
2010s movie?
Yes.
Okay, 2010s. Is it a drama?
Yes.
Is there a lot of music in the movie?
No, it's not. It's not a big part of it. No.
Okay, is it a kids movie?
No.
Is there a male lead?
Yes.
Is it a graphic movie?
There are graphic moments.
Like
yes.
adult themes?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay, male lead.
Male themes.
Is there gore in the movie?
Yes.
Is it a Quentin Tarantino movie?
No.
Is it a movie by a well-known director?
Yes.
Is it the Coen brothers?
Yes.
Is it about
Man.
Is there a lot of snow in the movie?
No.
Is there is Brad Pitt in the movie?
No.
Is Tommy Lee Jones in the movie?
You got 1 minute. Yes, Tommy
Lee Jones is in the movie?
You know what this movie is. You can't say it though. You gotta write it down.
Is there a guy who kills people with a cattle rod?
Dang it! You got it. He's got 45 seconds left.
45 seconds to spare. Well, I got to write it down. I could be completely wrong. There's a lot of Coen Brothers movie with cattle prods.
No, there's literally not.
All
right. My gosh, I'm so annoyed right now.
I'm gonna write it. I'm writing it down.
When you said, "Is it the Coen Brothers?" and you still had 1 minute 30 seconds left, I thought I'm done for.
Oh no,
I'm done for.
All right. Well, I did that. Yeah, I did it in 1:15.
Yeah. You had 45 seconds left.
Okay. My guess is No Country for Old Men.
You're right. You're right. Dang it.
So that means that Adam gets the punishment.
Okay, here's my punishment. You might have to do the outro for me, because the punishment. Anyway, I'll tell you. The punishment was going to last till the end of the episode, and I'm supposed to do the outro. Maybe I'll do it while it's happening. But
you got to tell us what's going to happen.
So the punishment. So in Get Out, I'll have to get my phone out for this. She, what's her name? The mom with the hypnosis. Missy uses the teacup and she scrapes the spoon on the teacup and dings it.
Okay.
So the punishment was to take the headphones out of our audio interface and plug it in my phone and max volume till the end of the podcast. Listen to Fork Scratching Plate.
Oh.
And so now I have to do it.
So you're going to do it with reading the outro?
Yeah, I'll try.
Go for it.
So now I'm not getting I do not have the microphone audio in my ears, but I got the dongle.
Okay.
I found a 10-hour video of Fork Scratching Plate.
I love that.
And so I'm going to try. This is just great.
This is going to be great because you're going to do it with this. And it's going to be in both of your ears?
Oh, yeah. It's in both of my ears.
Okay.
I'm going to try and do the outro while I'm listening to this. So here we go. Max volume. There's an ad.
I'm confirming that it's max volume.
Yeah.
Hold on,
I turned it down because there was an ad.
I see another ad. So
there's another ad.
Wait till it gets through those.
Come on, people.
All right.
Gatorade. Here we go.
Okay. It is
max
scratching max volume. All right. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, no. This is just bad. Oh.
Go ahead.
As we conclude. Do you guys want to hear it a little bit?
No, you don't need to do that to them. Okay. Okay. You don't need to do that then.
That's max volume in my ears right now.
You're yelling too, so you don't have
Am
to.
I yelling in the mic?
You're yelling hard.
As we conclude this tantalizing episode of CineBites, delving into the thought-provoking, oh gosh, world of food and film through the lens of Get Out, we've peeled back the layers of symbolism and suspense that make this movie a true cinematic feast. Just as every dish tells a story, every frame of Get Out carries a message, inviting us to explore societal complexities and reflect on the narratives woven into our lives. Remember, much like the meticulous art of cooking, filmmaking is a blend of flavors, plots, visuals, emotions that come together to create an unforgettable experience. As you savor your next meal or immerse yourself in another movie, let the flavors and themes intertwine, enriching your understanding of both culinary and cinematic journeys. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Get Out. Stay tuned for more cinematic flavors in upcoming episodes. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and hear our podcast weekly on all major podcasting platforms. Until next time,
Bon appetit and happy viewing.